हरे कृष्णा। नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा. So welcome back to the fifth day of this course, Demystifying Raganuga Bhakti. I would again like to remind you that you please, those of you who are watching these videos on YouTube, if you have any suggestions or questions or comments, please do type it in the comments box which is below the video. And those of you who are watching this video on the online courses portal, GV online courses portal, you can also type your questions there. And every once in a while we will have, when sufficient number of questions have been accumulated, definitely we will have separate sessions for Q&A. So I am just giving you periodic reminders so that you don't have to feel that your questions will not be addressed. We will definitely address those questions. So we are on the fifth day of this course. Very happy to be back with you discussing these themes. And on this fifth day, by the end of fourth day, we started discussing about the history of Raganuga Sadhana in Gaudiya Vaishnavism. So I will do a quick recap of what we have discussed till now, and then we can move on to the further subject matter. So we discussed that the history of Raganuga Bhakti in Gaudiya Vaishnavism starts from Krishna himself. We saw this section from the Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela, 4th chapter, where Krishna and Vrindavan is thinking that Prema Rasa Niryasa Karite Aswadan Raga Marga Bhakti Loke Karite Pracharan. He thinks that how I have this intense desire to experience the love these Vrajavasis are having towards me. What is that bliss that they experience in relationship with me? I want to experience it. And not only do I want to experience it, but I want to spread this message. Therefore, Krishna is called as Rasika Shekhar or Rasikendra Mauli or Rasikendra, the crest jewel of all experiencers of Rasa or Akila Rasamrita Murti. So he comes to experience that Rasa which his own devotees experience in loving him. And not only that, he is also called as Parama Karuna because he wants to distribute that love to everyone in this material world. And then Krishna said that Aishwarya Jnanete Sabha Jagata Mishrita Aishwarya Shitila Preme Nahe Mora Prita. In this world, everyone is worshipping me. Everyone's worship is mixed with this awe and reverence, and I don't like this. And I don't like this kind of love where my devotees think that they are they are subordinate and I am the master. But when devotees such as Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda consider me to be their son and completely dependent on them, and when friends like Subal and Sridama, when they fight with me, they climb on my shoulders and think that I am their equal, this is the kind of love that I am craving for. Therefore, I will bring these very same devotees who have this kind of love with me, and I will descend to this material world and show to the people of this material world the sweetness of this kind of relationship in Goloka Vrindavan. Yei Shuddha Bhaktalaya Karimu Avatar Kariba Vivida Vida Adbhuta Vihar Vaikuntadye Nahi Yeye Leelara Prachar Sese Leela Karibe Yate Mora Chamatkar. He says, even the devotees of Vrindavan will be astonished to see these kind of pastimes. That kind of pastimes I will perform after descending to this material world with all my entourage from Vrindavan. So, therefore, he says that not only do I want to show, but I want to, by showing this, I want to inspire the people of this world to develop a similar mood of worship and respect towards me. So, therefore, and when they see this, Vrajera Nirmala Raga Shuni Bhaktagan Raga Marge Bhaje Yena Chadi Dharma Karma. So, when devotees see this kind of display of love, loving exchanges between myself and my devotees, then they will be so inspired, they will give up all considerations of dharma and karma, and they will take up to practice of this Raganuga sadhana. And this is exactly what Krishna indicates in Bhagavatam also. Anugrahaya bhaktanam manusham deham ashritah bhajante tadrishi krida ya shrutva tatparo bhavet. By hearing this, the devotees, whoever hears these pastimes, they get the deep desire to actually develop the similar kind of love towards Krishna. So that is the purpose. So the history of Raganuga Bhakti in Gaudiya Vaishnavism can be traced back to Krishna and Goloka Vrindavan, his desire, and subsequently to his appearance as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu about 550 years back. And why this word Raganuga sounds so taboo? As we saw in the first discussion, there are two extreme opinions. One extreme opinion is that, oh, Raganuga means Sahajiya, right? This is, oh, Raganuga Bhakti is practiced by Sahajiyas. This is one extreme opinion which is completely wrong. And another extreme opinion is, did Prabhupada or Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, did Prabhupada give really Raganuga sadhana? Did Prabhupada give everything, or did he just give the ABCDs? And this historical accusation that that is there on Prabhupada is there on Prabhupada's spiritual master also, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So therefore, if we resolve this accusation on Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, then it resolves the accusation on Srila Prabhupada also. Because Prabhupada's teachings have been very much in line with the teachings of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So, the historical criticism is whether Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur did give Raganuga sadhana or not. Which means if he did not, then he is not following in the footsteps of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, in order to understand this, we have to retrace the history. So, we will scratch little bit the history. We started scratching yesterday, we will continue it. So, in this context, we saw that how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught Rasa Upasana or worship of Krishna on the platform of these 5 principal rasas. He taught this subject matter to Swarup Damodar Goswami. And Swarup Damodar Goswami taught this Raga Bhakti or Raganuga Bhakti. He divided it into two separate paths, the internal path and the external path. The internal path was taught to Raghunath Das Goswami, who compiled it in his books like Manasiksha. And in the external path was taught to Vakreshwar Pandit. Vakreshwar Pandit taught it to Gopal Guru Goswami. Gopal Guru Goswami taught it to Dhyan Chandra Goswami. And Dhyan Chandra Goswami compiled it in the book Shri Gaur Govinda Archana Smarana Paddhati. So this we saw yesterday. And how both the paths actually talk about worship of Guru, worship of Radha, Krishna, worship of Lalita, Vishaka, and the Vrajavasis. Everything is, these are the common things, but the difference is that the Gaur Govinda Archana Smarana Paddhati, the external path, the book representing the external path, is filled with details about how to do, what to do, when to do, which mantra to chant, which mantra, when to chant that mantra, and all that. But Manassiksha purely seems to focus on the internal change. What is the kind of value system that we need to change? Whom should we develop attraction towards? What are the obstacles in developing that attraction? How do you overcome lust, anger, envy, greed, illusion, pride? How do you overcome hypocrisy, cheating propensity? How do you overcome the desire for fame? So, the Manassiksha seemed to put solid emphasis on an internal transformation. And this is actually a prerequisite to practice the external path also. But because this is not so explicitly emphasized in the Gaur Govinda Archana Smarana Paddhati, over a period of time, this unscrupulous, non-bona fide, unqualified people started imitating this path. Without having any purity of heart, they started practicing this external path, which was easily imitatable. So therefore, what happened? The external path started getting misused, and as a result, many various different types of Sahajiya sects, Aul Baul, Saki Beki, and Dharavesh and Sanu, and so many such abominable practices started proliferating in the form of these Sahajiya sects, and therefore putting the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya into terrible disrepute. So in Bhaktivinoda Thakur's time, Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur's time, Gaudiya Vaishnavism had completely lost its reputation due to these perverted practices, which all stemmed from a non-bona fide understanding of this external path, an improper practice of this external path, and premature practice of this external path without sufficient purification. So therefore, and over a period of time, people completely forgot about the inner path taught by Raghunath Das, Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, and they thought that Raganuga Sadhana means Gaur Govinda Archana Smarana Paddhati, the external path. So therefore, those with that kind of an understanding, they cannot see, if a person is practicing the internal path, they cannot see that he is also practicing Raganuga Sadhana. And this is exactly what happened when they saw Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So historically, this path has been misused in three different ways. The first misuse was these practitioners of the external path laid exclusive emphasis on the Manjari Bhav to the extent that they became highly critical of any other rasas, which is very offensive actually. To criticize even an ordinary devotee, a beginner devotee, is a big offense. What to speak of criticizing perfected devotees? And this is exactly what's happening in the name of Manjari Bhav. And this Manjari Bhava was given by a non-bona fide spiritual master to an unqualified disciple who was infested with all kinds of anarthas within the heart, and it led to, and history is the proof for this. The second misuse of Raganuga Bhajan was an exclusive emphasis on solitary bhajan. So which means this made actually Raganuga Sadhana absolutely unapproachable for the householders, preachers. Like for example, institutionally it cannot be practiced like this with emphasis on preaching. Preaching according to them is for neophytes. Solitary bhajan is for the advanced devotees, like that. The third historical misuse is that the role of a guru, according to these external practitioners, as we saw yesterday, was restricted to only giving the Siddha Pranali mantra and what is your Siddha Deha and all those things. But actually, the guru has to, on a regular basis, interact with the disciple and see whether he is progressing in the right way, whether he is following the process properly or not. But this injunction was rejected both by the disciples and the pseudo guru who was giving the Siddha Pranali initiation. So therefore, the whole proliferation of unfortunate apasampradayas started, and so many nefarious activities started in the name of, because of the exclusive emphasis on Madhurya Rasa. So it became terrible actually. Lot of nefarious activities started in that. And therefore, when Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur and Bhakti Vinod Thakur and Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur, when they came, they started to rectify this whole thing. So what essentially Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur had to do was what Buddha had to do. So during the time of Buddha, this whole Karmakandiya section of the Vedas were so much misused by the Brahmanas to mass slaughter various animals, and so much violence was committed in the name of the Vedas that Buddha had to come and literally reject the Vedas. But that was an external thing, so that Shankaracharya could come and re-establish the Vedas back, and the Vaishnavacharyas could come and re-establish the right understanding of the Vedas back. So in the same way, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur was not against Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti, but he was against these kind of malpractices which went on in the name of Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti, and therefore he actually rejected the external path, because what was existing as the external path was only the perverted remnants of the actual external path, which was given by Swarup Damodar Goswami to Vakreshwar Pandit. So what actually Bhakti Vinod Thakur and Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur had to do was reject the external path, so that the pure internal path, which had not been tampered with till then and which is impossible to tamper with, they re-established it, because they thought this is the safest way of doing. So with this understanding, we will try to see proofs. Is there any proof that Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur tried to is there any proof that he tried to establish the internal path and not reject the Raganuga sadhana completely? So we will try to see some proofs. So Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur taught the inner path of Raghunath Das Goswami as mentioned in Manas Siksha. So actually what he did was he denounced the false practices that imitated the external path, which created a lot of confusion. Okay, so let's read some excerpts from Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's writings. So this is an excerpt from one of the letters that Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur had written to his disciples. So Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes, "You should not mistakenly consider anartha nivritti as prayojan. For one thus surmising can never enter into artha pravritti." The goal of life is not anartha nivritti, which is practiced during the stage of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. And when one crosses anartha nivritti and comes to Nishtha and later stages, then one can enter into Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti. So one should not think that the goal of life is only to accomplish anartha nivritti through practice of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. He says after anartha nivritti comes artha pravritti. Therefore, I will begin speaking about Ashtakaliya Leela. The Ashtakaliya Leela, the eightfold pastimes of Krishna during the 8 different times, Ashtaprahar Leela or Ashtakaliya Leela, it is actually discussed at very elevated stages. Beginners cannot hear. Beginners who are troubled by severe anarthas, they cannot hear such pastimes. So Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur says, let those who have chanted Harinam for 15 or 20 years hear such topics. So this was about 100 years back, more than 100 years back. This was not the age of television, internet, smartphones. So in such an age, under the able guidance of Simha Guru, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, in 15 to 20 years, they would become qualified to hear such pastimes of Radha and Krishna. But we have to understand that in this age, in this degraded age of mass distraction, we can easily assume that it would take a much longer time. It is not a blanket statement, but in general it would take a much longer time because anarthas are more easily available and the whole atmosphere is permeated with so much distractions. So it would take a reasonably longer time. And of course he was addressing those who are staying within the Gaudiya Math under the closed observation of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur himself, being trained personally by him. So such people after 15 to 20 years, they could hear Radha Krishna Leela, which is allowed for a person who is at the stage of Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti. Do not think that the Ashtakaliya Leela is the property of the Prakrita Sahajiyas. It is actually our affair. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, this is not their property. Actually, it is our property. It has to be retrieved from the hands of those cheaters. So this is what Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur says. We have to retrieve it from their hands. They are misusing it. We have to show them how to properly utilize this Leela. And who can utilize, who can speak, who can hear. I am sorry, this is not from a letter. This is from the writings of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur in one of his articles that he published in their Gaudiya magazine. Now, another thing that we will try to study is we will try to study the Gaudiya Math logo. And this Gaudiya Math logo was personally designed by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And this logo was on the Gaudiya Math, and every issue of every magazine, book, everything that was published through the Gaudiya Math press. Okay. So what we can understand from this Gaudiya Math logo is very important because this will help us resolve the controversy surrounding Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Did he actually reject the path of Raganuga path? So what you see here is the logo of Gaudiya Math. And for those of you who are seeing it in your smartphones, it may not look big enough. But for those of you who are watching it on your desktop or laptop, it might be big enough. You can understand this logo. So if you see, I will help you go over this logo. This logo indicates the understanding of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur about the path that he came to propagate. So on top of this logo, and in the middle is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu standing with his hands raised in this way. And right below is the Tilak mark Guru Gaudiya. This is Guru and Gaudiya. And in the middle is the Om. And below the Om is Nama, which is Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And there is a star around that Om, which indicates the 6 opulences of Bhagavan. Aishwaryasya, Samagrasya, Viryasya, Yashashashriya, Jnana, Vairagya. These 6 opulences of the Supreme Lord is mentioned. So this is the vertical description. First Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in between the holy name, and below Guru and Gaudiya and the Tilak symbol. And on both sides of this vertical line, on the left hand side is the Vaidhi sadhana, and on the right hand side is the Raganuga sadhana. If you see, I will first go over the left hand side. If you see Pancharatra, this comes the Pancharatrika Vidhi or the Archana Marga. And next comes Lord Lakshmi Narayan seated on a throne. So worship of Radha and Krishna in the mode of Lakshmi Narayan. This is what Prabhupada also taught to the beginner devotees. So the photo of Lakshmi and Narayan is there, and below that is written Vidhi or Vaidhi. And below that, if you see, is Archana. There is a Dhoop and there is a bell. Indicates basically Archana Marga. So Vaidhi sadhana is predominantly dependent on Archanam, because for neophytes, especially, if you remember, we discussed while discussing the 64 limbs in the rediscovering Vaidhi sadhana bhakti section, we discussed that the importance of Archana Marga, especially for the beginner devotees. Okay, so this is the left hand side of this logo. Pancharatriki Vidhi, so therefore Archanam in the mode of Lakshmi and Narayan. And if you see the right hand side of this logo, it has Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam is the guiding light for the Raga Marga. And below Bhagavatam you see is Radha and Krishna. So when one progresses worshipping Radha and Krishna in the mode of Lakshmi Narayan and goes beyond Anartha Nivritti and develops that genuine greed for the love of Rajavasis, then they can start worshipping Radha and Krishna, the deities of Radha and Krishna, in the mode of Radha and Krishna actually. And below that is written the word Raga. And below that is Kirtana. So Kirtan, and then you also see a machine there, and that machine is actually printing press. So Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur considered the printing press as Kirtan, writing and proliferating this literature of Srimad Bhagavatam and the connected literatures. He saw it as a part of Raganuga Bhakti actually. So which wrongly, if you remember, the second misuse of the external path was they thought that progress in Raganuga sadhana means solitary bhajan. But this was not agreeable. Even the Goswamis, who were not Raganuga sadhakas, but they were perfected devotees, Ragatmika bhaktas, they did not do any solitary bhajan. Of course, a part of their practice was solitary bhajan, but mostly they were engaged in writing books, printing books. We know whatever exists in our sampradaya in the form of writings all has been given by our Goswamis. So they were heavily involved in printing. Of course, in those days printing press was not there. So they were writing it with their hands, which Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur did through the printing press. So therefore, from this logo, you can clearly understand that Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur did not reject the Raganuga path. Rather, he composed a song. Pujala Ragapata Gaurava Bange Matala Harijana Vishaya Range. So, which essentially means we don't reject the path of Raganuga, but we hold it on our head with great respect and practice our Vaidhi sadhana. And let that Vaidhi sadhana purify our heart, and naturally that Raganuga sadhana blossom in our heart. This was the teaching of Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur. And this is safe, so unqualified people do not take up to the practice of Raganuga sadhana. So from the logo it is clear Bhakti Siddhanta's process of Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti is based on the holy name and on the Shastras such as Srimad Bhagavatam with the aim of pleasing Radha and Krishna and obtaining their shelter. So where did Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur reject it? So Srila Prabhupada also, we will read how Srila Prabhupada also speaks about this logo of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's Gaudiya Math. He writes about it in one of his fourth canto purports, and he also speaks about it in one of his conversations. So we will read both. And historically also, Srila Prabhupada, when the Mayapur gate was first constructed, Prabhupada wanted the same logo of Gaudiya Math put on the gate of Mayapur. So which means our Srila Prabhupada also wanted to establish the ISKCON society based on the teachings of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who emphasized on the internal path. So, Srila Prabhupada writes in the fourth canto purport, I am reading from Prabhupada's purport. Neophyte devotees worship the Lord according to the Pancharatriki Vidhi. If you see the left hand side of the logo, or the regulative principles enjoined in the Narada Pancharatra. Radha Krishna cannot be approached by the neophyte devotees, therefore temple worship according to the regulative principles is offered to Lakshmi Narayan. You see? So Pancharatriki Vidhi, that was the first. On the left hand side, on the topmost was Pancharatra, and worship of Lakshmi Narayan, that was in the middle of the left hand side. Although there may be Radha Krishna Vigraha or form, the worship of the neophyte devotees is acceptable as Lakshmi Narayan worship only. And worship according to the Pancharatriki Vidhi is called as Vidhi Marga. And Archanam process also was mentioned. And worship according to Bhagavat Vidhi, you see, on the right hand side was Bhagavatam. Bhagavat Vidhi principles is called as Raga Marga. The principles of Raga Marga are especially meant for devotees who are elevated to the Vrindavan platform. So Prabhupada is talking. Vrindavan platform is Raganuga. The inhabitants of Vrindavan are actually on the Raga Marga or Bhagavat Marga platform. They participate in 5 basic rasas, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, Madhurya and Shanta. So for further reference, you can refer to 4.24.45-46 in the chapter on Rudra Geet in the 4th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 45th and 46th verse purport, Prabhupada writes about this. So therefore, neither did Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur reject Raga Marga, nor did Prabhupada reject Raga Marga. And in another conversation, Srila Prabhupada mentions, my Guru Maharaj introduced, you have seen what is called the signia or the insignia, actually Prabhupada is mentioning. One side Pancharatriki Vidhi, one side Bhagavat Vidhi. That is, I have seen that Gaudiya Math emblem, Prabhupada said, I have seen that emblem. Yes, and so actually Bhagavat Marg is very strong. That is sufficient. Bhagavat Marg means what? Raganuga, according to the emblem. Prabhupada says that is sufficient. But without Pancharatriki Vidhi, this polluted body, polluted mind of the devotee cannot be purified. So, if you see, based on the logo, based on the teachings of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and the way in which Prabhupada has written about that logo also, actually the Vaidhi sadhana that is taught in our Gaudiya Vaishnava Parampara is not the same Vaidhi sadhana of the other sampradayas. The other sampradayas Vaidhi sadhana is born out of Vaikunta Bija. The seed which will take us towards Vaikunta. So that creeper of devotional service will grow and grow and grow and pierce through the 7 layers of the universal, of 7 layers of the universe, and it will go to Vaikunta and it will touch the lotus feet of Lord Lakshmi Narayan and Vaikunta. or Lord Ram or Lord Narsingadev, depending on whomever we may be attached to. But the seed of the Vaidhi sadhana that is being practiced in the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, it is born from a completely different seed. It is born out of the Goloka Bija. So this Vaidhi sadhana naturally transforms into Raganuga sadhana when practiced according to the teachings of our acharyas. So in one sense, if you see, Vaidhi sadhana in our line is just one step before Raganuga sadhana. You can even call it a stage. It is a prior stage to Raganuga sadhana. And some of the acharyas call the Vaidhi sadhana as Ajata Ruchi Raganuga sadhana, and the actual Raganuga sadhana as Jata Ruchi Raganuga sadhana. So before one reaches Ruchi or Nishta, the sadhana which is practiced is called as, what we call as Vaidhi sadhana is actually Raganuga sadhana only. Ajata Ruchi, before the stage of Ruchi. Therefore, we are recommended to follow Pancharatriki Vidhi, worship Radha Krishna deities in the mood of Lakshmi Narayan. If ultimately Prabhupada or Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur always wanted us to worship in the mood of Lakshmi Narayan only, as recommended in Vaidhi sadhana, then they could have as well established Lakshmi Narayan deities. Prabhupada always emphasized neophytes should worship the deities in the mood of Lakshmi Narayan. But out of the 108 temples that Prabhupada established all over the world, how come there is not a single temple in which he established Lakshmi Narayan deities? In every temple only Radha Krishna deities were established. Only in one temple in Los Angeles he established Rukmini Dwarakadish because the temple was quite opulent. For that purpose. But otherwise, he established the deities of Radha and Krishna only everywhere. So therefore, to say, in this way, indirectly actually if you see, even though Vaidhi sadhana is emphasized for the beginners, but that Vaidhi sadhana is meant to transform into Raganuga sadhana. And to the extent, as I mentioned, some acharyas say that this Vaidhi sadhana is actually Ajata Ruchi Raganuga sadhana only. When Ruchi manifests after Nishta, then naturally that greed will manifest. And we will worship the same Radha Krishna deities with greed. So therefore, neither that Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur nor that our Srila Prabhupada reject the Raga Marga, but they gave us the exact path of Vaidhi sadhana which can actually purify our heart, as Prabhupada is writing here. Yes, and so actually Bhagavat Marg is very strong. That is sufficient. Bhagavat Marg is Raga Marg. But without Pancharatriki Vidhi, this polluted body, polluted mind of the devotee cannot be purified. So, according to our practice, Anartha Nivritti is achieved through Vaidhi sadhana, and post Anartha Nivritti, Artha Pravritti is taken over by Raganuga sadhana. But in essence, as a goal, this Vaidhi sadhana also has Radha and Krishna and Vrindavan only as the goal. Therefore, right from the beginning, we are taught Aradhyo Bhagavan Brajesha Tanayas Taddama Vrindavanam. Ramya Kachid Upasana Vrajavadu Vargenaya Kalpita. So it is not that from the beginning only Prabhupada has taught. The worshipable Lord is Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan. And our role model devotees are the gopis of Vrindavan, the Vrajavasis. But Radha and Krishna are the object of worship of Raganuga Bhakti. And the gopis of Vrindavan are Ragatmika Bhaktas. So if we are asked to accept them as the role models, then how can we say that Prabhupada or Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur gave us Vaidhi sadhana bhakti only and not Raganuga sadhana bhakti? This accusation has no basis actually. Only an improper understanding or a perverted understanding of the real Siddhanta and truth is the cause of such improper understanding. And further, regarding his own practices, let's try to understand the own personal practice of Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur. He was the disciple of Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj. Okay, and we say, glorifying Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj, Vipralamba Rasambode Padam Bojayate Namaha. Vipralamba Rasa Ambodi. Ambodi means ocean. He was an ocean of Vipralamba Rasa. That Guru, he initiated Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur. And Vipralamba Rasa is generally seen in Vrindavan only. And only the Vrajavasis experience this mood. And Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, if you see his own life, he especially liked one song of Raghunath Das Goswami expressing separation from Srimati Radharani. So that is very intimate actually. And also, he copied those songs of separation, made them the basis of his personal meditation. He used to meditate on those songs constantly. And also, it is historically accounted that Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur himself revealed his form to some of his very intimate associates as Nayana Mani Manjari in the spiritual world. And who is a Manjari in Vrindavan only? So he is a Nitya Siddha devotee in Vrindavan. How can he reject the Raga Marga? And also it is well known that Sri Vrajapatna was the place of his intense bhajan, where he had performed a vow of chanting 1 billion names. In Mayapur, where he constructed a small thatched hut to perform his intense bhajan of eating just little bit once a day and chant 1 billion names. That place he called it as Sri Vrajapatana. He did not call it Vaikunta or anything like that. Therefore, even though one may say he may not have received the external Siddha Pranali from Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj, he may not have, he may have also, how do we know? Is every meeting of Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur and Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj documented? No. So what exactly transpired between such an exalted guru and an exalted devotee, we don't know. But even if it had not happened also, it is not a problem, because there are many of the external aspects of the external path which Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur practiced in his own life. So therefore, we cannot say that Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur rejected the Raga Marga. And most importantly, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur gave constant emphasis to the teachings of Srila Raghunath Das Goswami in his book Manas Siksha. So, this gives very solid evidence. If Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur would have rejected Raga Marga, why would he speak about Manas Siksha? So, therefore, definitely he subscribed to the inner path. Not that he rejected the inner path, but the inner path was in such a pathetic situation, in such a perverted situation during his time, that he had to reject it. Because it became literally impossible to accept the external path without all its perversions. So, Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur established the inner path as taught by Raghunath Das Goswami. Now, in this letter to one of his disciples, he establishes this point. So, he says, the Ashtakaliya Leela and related topics that you have heard about from Vaishnavas in Vrindavan is undoubtedly worshipable. So, one of the disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he apparently or probably strayed away and went to Vrindavan, met with those Vrindavan Babajis and heard about the topics of Ashtakaliya Leela from them. So, and Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur is writing this letter to that disciple. He says, yes, the Ashtakaliya Leela that you heard from these Vrindavan Vaishnavas is very worshipable. Yet, how these pastimes are conceived in a state of infestation by anarthas is not at all worshipable. How is it possible for a person whose heart is infested with all these anarthas to meditate and appreciate these Ashtakaliya Leela? This is not acceptable. This is not appreciable. This is not appreciated, he says. By repeated chanting, a special individual is capable of knowing these matters. These will be revealed to a special individual who is constantly chanting, which is the identity of the Swarupa. By attaining Anartha Nivritti, one's Swarupa is automatically awakened. And the eternal mode of thinking that is innate to it manifests. So he says that by constant chanting, when the heart becomes purified, then naturally one's eternal Swarupa manifests. Those who profess to teach or reveal this identity are deceitful, for it cannot be done. Because those who can teach it will teach you how to chant offenselessly so that one's heart can become purified, and when the heart becomes purified, automatically one's Swarupa becomes manifest. This is the teaching of Manasiksha. This was the teaching of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, following the teachings of Manasiksha. On the other hand, if a devotee receives some inspiration after sincerely chanting for a long time, he should go to the Sadguru or an advanced devotee and ask that it be confirmed and purified by him. When his eternal Swarupa is automatically manifest in that purified heart due to sincere chanting and sincere practice of devotional service, at that stage he should go to a bona fide Guru, reveal his heart to that Guru, and that Guru will confirm, yes, what is manifest in your heart is bona fide, it is true. And he says that Swarupa has 11 aspects. And these 11 aspects are described in the external path also. So, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur does not reject it, but he explains how this is revealed. This is revealed by sincere, offenseless practice of devotional service. When the purification of the heart happens, when that purified heart, it manifests, and when it manifests in the heart, then the sincere disciple approaches a bona fide Guru and he clarifies, and seeks clarification. And when the Guru clarifies that yes, it is bona fide, then he reveals the 11 aspects. The 11 aspects are what your name in the spiritual world, what is the dress you wear, the particular service that you perform, what time of the day you perform that service, and all those details are there. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes, there are many cases of unscrupulous gurus who artificially force feed these topics to unqualified practitioners, yet that cannot be called a symptom of spiritual perfection. It is just like giving one who is struggling to pass his 10th standard board exam. To him, you give the best of the books that are meant for training one to get into IIT. So you may get the best books from all over the world, and you may give it to that person. But if he is struggling to even pass his 10th standard exam, just because you have given him the best of the books, that does not mean he will clear the exam. He needs to have a natural IQ. And there is a particular way of training that is needed to develop that IQ. Once you help him develop that IQ, then you give those books, then he will be able to read it and pass the exam. Those who have achieved Swarup Siddhi gain such realization through internal revelation. This is the teaching of Raghunath Das Goswami, and this is the teaching of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur also. The Guru's only involvement is to assist his disciples' ongoing advancement. The Guru has to gradually assist the disciple in his ongoing advancement. As a sadhaka progresses towards siddhi or perfection, all these things are naturally revealed within the Sevonmukha heart. So when the heart becomes very favorably disposed towards serving Radha and Krishna, in that heart, due to sincere service, naturally these things will be revealed. So this is Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's letter written in November 1930 to one of his disciples who had approached some Brajavasi Vaishnavas, and he had unscrupulously received some teachings from them. So, by the grace of Guru and advanced devotees, all is revealed, but a formal Siddha Pranali is not necessary. It is not compulsory. This Siddha Pranali method is one method which was revealed to Vakreshwar Pandit. But this is not the only way. In a letter, another letter by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur wrote, "Only the holy name can reveal the spiritual form of the living being and cause him to be attracted to Krishna's name, form, qualities and pastimes. So, Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur therefore emphasized on offenseless chanting of the holy name. And this has been the emphasis all through, but just that people got distracted in between. The ultimate conclusion is that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur taught purification of anarthas, anartha nivrittis, through chanting the holy name, deity worship, study of the Shastras, visiting the holy places, serving the devotees, and helping others to take up to Krishna consciousness under the direction of a Guru. So Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur taught all these things. This is also the teaching of Srila Raghunath Das Goswami in his book Manasiksha. And it is not that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur rejected the external path as non-bona fide, but he rejected the ridiculous mockery that existed in the name of the external path. That he rejected. Otherwise, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, if he had rejected the external path, it would be like rejecting Swarup Damodar Goswami or Vakreshwar Pandit. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur would never do this. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and his faithful followers therefore emphasize the internal path of Manasiksha, which is almost impossible to counterfeit or imitate. So therefore, to say that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, or following in his footsteps, his disciples including Srila Prabhupada, did not subscribe to or gave the Raganuga path is a baseless accusation which is not based on the proper understanding of our Siddhanta and the history of our own Sampradaya. Okay. So now, having established that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur did indeed not reject the Raga Marga, but taught a kind of Raga Marga which is absolutely, which has no scope of getting perverted actually. There is no scope of perverting that path. So that is what he actually taught. So now, hopefully based on this long discussion that we had in this previous section, it would be quite clear, this point must be quite clear, that neither Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur nor Srila Prabhupada actually rejected the Raganuga Bhakti. Rather, they gave what was gradually necessary to elevate people to purify the heart. And as Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, When the heart becomes purified, automatically one Swarupa gets revealed. And the role of the Guru is to clarify, oh, you are thinking in the right direction, yes, it is right. That is the role of the Guru. So, proper practice of that Vaidhi sadhana is what actually leads to cleansing of heart and then revelation of our own spiritual form, like that. So now, having said that, there is a flip side to this whole thing, which is the ultra conservative approach. So we should be very careful that we don't let the pendulum swing to the other side. So when the pendulum sometimes goes to one extreme and sometimes in response it goes to the other extreme. So the ultra conservative approach, what is the problem with this? Because the Gaudiya Vaishnava history, as we discussed elaborately now, is fraught with nasty deviations due to premature acceptance of the Raganuga path, many may wrongly deduce that Raganuga is something from which to protect the practicing devotees. So many people think that, oh, you have to protect the devotees from Raganuga Bhakti. This is a very extreme conservative approach which is not right also. They may think, let devotees practice Vaidhi sadhana and when they achieve liberation, then they can think of Raganuga sadhana. This is not the teaching of our acharyas. So this is as we discussed, swinging the pendulum to the other end. It is not that after we achieve liberation, then we can think of Raganuga sadhana. This is not the right understanding. This ultra-conservative attitude may appear valid to some devotees, but it is not the attitude of the Vaishnava Acharyas, including Srila Prabhupada. This is not their mode. So what we are discussing now, this is based on the writing of Srila Shivram Swami Maharaj in his book Shuddha Bhakti Chintamani, where he is telling that don't let the pendulum swing to the other end by adopting this ultra-conservative approach. It is true, we are not denying the fact, it is true that many people have been misled into deviations by prematurely approaching the path of Raganuga Bhakti without due diligence. But that does not mean that we throw the baby out with the bathwater. So this is not the right understanding. But Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur reasons that the fault is not with spontaneous devotion. The fault is not with Raganuga Bhakti. But the fault is there with the false teachers. So replace the false teachers with the proper teachers. And Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur himself was the best teacher of Raganuga Bhakti actually. He was the best teacher of Raganuga Bhakti. So, as we saw the example of pouring milk into a vessel with 100 holes. So, one who really genuinely wants to give milk to that person would actually try to plug those 100 holes first. And then he will pick up his jar of milk and pour it into that vessel. One who tries to pour that milk into that vessel with 100 holes without plugging those holes, he really does not understand the process at all. And therefore Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur and Srila Raghunath Das Goswami himself, they spend lot of time discussing the anarthas and the path of anartha nivritti. Because only in an anartha free heart can becomes a fertile ground for the blossoming of Raganuga Bhakti. Ignoring Raganuga Bhakti, he writes, has not made it unimportant. Indeed, he goes on to say that preventive and discouraging methods do not offer any positive cure for such abuse, and have as a matter of fact been found to be practically useless. He says, the problem is not with Raganuga Bhakti, the problem is with the false teachers. So the solution is not to hide Raganuga Bhakti, but the solution is to give the right teachings. This comment is relevant to ISKCON, particularly in light of recent unsuccessful attempts by our leadership to restrict the study of spontaneous devotion. So this Maharaj writes about 20 years back, must be around 2000. So historically, we started out history of Gaudiya Vaishnavism starting from Krishna 5000 years back. Now we have come to the history of about 20 years back, and probably it is relevant even in today's day and age. Interestingly, even in today's day and age, you find both extremes. One is Raganuga is Sahajiya, so it has to be rejected. People have to be protected from Raganuga Bhakti. And the other extreme is that Prabhupada has given only the ABCDs. He has not given anything higher. So we are trying to address both these issues here. So now, Maharaj wrote this book about 20 years back, I think 1998, 99, 2000, like that. So he writes that this comment about this ultra-conservative approach, or as Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes, that the problem is not with the Raganuga Bhakti, but the problem is with the false teachers. Therefore, there is no point hiding Raganuga Bhakti. Actually, to hide Raganuga Bhakti is actually useless endeavor, he says. And he says this comment is relevant in today's ISKCON scenario also, because at some stage, ISKCON leadership was probably trying to discourage devotees from reading the sections on Raganuga Bhakti, even though they were written in books of Srila Prabhupada, like Nectar of Devotion, like that. And they even passed resolutions. And Maharaj writes, resolutions have done nothing to stem the tide of growing interest in the subject. If anything, they have done the opposite. Because you say, don't do it, then that naturally incites the curiosity. Why they are asking us not to do it? What is there in it? And then people started reading more and more. Those books started selling more and more after the ISKCON resolution. Till then, no one was even aware. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur recommends, he says the solution is intense counter propaganda. If there are 10 people doing false propaganda, there should be at least 20 people doing the right propaganda. That is the only way. There is no point criticizing. Teach the right knowledge. We should present the right conception of Raganuga Bhakti. And this course is one such attempt. What does Rupa Goswami have to say? What does Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur have to say? What does Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has to say? What does Srila Prabhupada has to say? What does the contemporary acharyas, what do they have to say? Like His Holiness Shivaram Swami Maharaj. So we are trying to understand from various perspectives in our Gaudiya Vaishnava line, what is the right understanding that our acharyas have given. So this is an attempt, a humble attempt, but this attempt is not our attempt, but this attempt has already been done by Rupa Goswami, Jiva Goswami and all the great acharyas. We are just presenting, we are just trying to discuss and understand what they have written. So intense counter propaganda is the solution and not just hiding, no, don't read. Teach them what is the right understanding. He explains that spontaneous devotion is part and parcel of the soul and it cannot be ignored. Instead, it should be understood through the teachings of Rupa Goswami by devotees surrendered to the lotus feet of their spiritual masters. So, through the teachings of Rupa Goswami, it should be uh, uh, understood by devotees surrendered to the lotus feet of the spiritual masters. This is the mood. Understand it through the teachings of Rupa Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So, this brings us to the end of this section where we have discussed the history of Raganuga Sadhana in Gaudiya Vaishnava Parampara. So, tomorrow when we discuss, I will do a brief recap of what we have discussed. But for now, we will move on to the next theme, which is practice of Raganuga Bhakti. How is Raganuga Bhakti practiced? Because till now we are talking about Vaidhi Raganuga. Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, how it is practiced, we know. The 64 limbs are described. You practice it. But Raganuga Sadhaka, what does he exactly practice? What does he practice? This needs to be understood. So we will discuss this theme of practice of Raganuga Bhakti. So how is it practiced? So first we will discuss the 4 essential elements of practice of Raganuga practice. So Srila Rupa Goswami writes in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Krishnam smaran janam chasya preshtam nija samihitam tattat kata rataschasau kuryad vasam vraje sada. 4 things he says. Krishnam smaran. One should try to remember Krishna. Cha asya preshtam janam smaran. And he should also try to favorably remember his nijajana, his associates, the associates of Krishna. But which associates? Nija samihitam. Nija samihitam means if a person has come to the stage of Raganuga. So now, before we discuss this verse, I want to clarify. The theme that we are discussing now is practice of Raganuga Bhakti. So henceforth, so we may discuss this for the next 2 days or so, or for the rest of the discussion till the end of this course. One thing I want you to remember is that now when we are discussing this practice, I am assuming, or we have to assume, that the person has the prerequisite qualification to practice this path. And what was the prerequisite qualification that we discussed before? Greed, lobha. So we assume that the person has that lobha and the spiritual master has examined that person, the bona fide spiritual master has examined that devotee and he says, yes, you are now qualified. So we are going to discuss about the practice of Raganuga Bhakti by such a qualified disciple. So by no means one should think that this is a suggestion for all the hearers of this course. It is not a suggestion that from tomorrow we start practicing this. So that is why we elaborately discussed about the qualification of practicing Raganuga Sadhana, at what stage one is qualified, how do you identify, what are the symptoms, everything we discussed in great detail, because one should not think that this section that we are discussing right now is actually a recommendation for all the devotees of ISKCON without any discrimination, that from tomorrow we should start practicing this. So again and again, I am giving this disclaimer now to start this section, and in between I will keep giving this disclaimer. Please don't feel bad, because it is necessary. Because a wholesale rejection is dangerous, but more dangerous is premature practice also. So therefore, again and again we will remind each other that the section that we are discussing about practice of this Raganuga Sadhana is for qualified people. So just in case you happen to start, you happen to go to YouTube and you saw the theme and you found it very interesting, so you started listening to it right on the 5th day only, then I would recommend go back to the first day and start listening from the first day this whole discussion, because in the previous discussions we have already discussed about the qualification needed to practice this path. So therefore, if you think that you have the qualification, then please do approach your spiritual master and seek guidance. With that disclaimer, we will start this section on practice of Raganuga Bhakti. And again, one need not think that we are discussing something very esoteric. We are not discussing anything very esoteric. This is there within the Bhakti Shastri portion of NOD. What we are going to discuss now is the 16th chapter of NOD, which is very much within the section on, which is very much within the portion of Bhakti Shastri. We are not going beyond 19 chapters also. In fact, in this course and in the sequel course also, which will speak about Bhava and Prema Bhakti, even in those courses we will not go beyond what is stipulated by Srila Prabhupada as the course material for Bhakti Shastri. So therefore, one need not think that we are discussing something way beyond. We are discussing Bhakti Shastri material only, but in little more detail, that's all. Okay, so with that disclaimer, we will try to discuss what are the 4 essential elements in the practice of Raganuga Bhakti, Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti. So Srila Rupa Goswami says, Krishnam smaran janam chasya preshtam nija samihitam tattat kataratas chasau kuryad vasam prajesada. He says, Krishnam smaran, remembrance of Krishna, cha asya preshtam janam smaran, and one should also remember his associates. Which associates? Nija samihitam. Nija samihitam means those associates who have a rasa, who relate with Krishna in a particular rasa, which is aspired by this practitioner. Which means, if this Raganuga Sadhaka is aspiring for Sakya Ras, then he will favorably remember Sridama, Subal, Madhumangal, who also have similar rasa. So Krishnam smaran cha asya nija samihitam preshtam janam smaran. Remembering Krishna and remembering those associates of Krishna whose rasa this practitioner is aspiring for. This is the second part. Third is tattat kata rataha. And then hearing topics of pastimes performed by Krishna in that particular rasa. In this example that we have taken, Sakya Ras. Kuryad vasam vrajesada. And one should always live in Vrindavan. If not physically, then at least mentally one should live. So 4 aspects we have discussed. Remembrance of Krishna, one has to cultivate, practice, and remembering Krishna in relationship with those associates of Krishna whose rasa this practitioner is aspiring for. This is second. Cha asya nija samihitam preshta janam smaran. And third is tattat kata rataha. Developing an attraction for hearing those pastimes. And kuryad vasam vrajesada. And one should remain in Vrindavan. So we will try to understand this verse little bit. Now starts the description of the method of Raganuga Sadhana, says Jiva Goswami. One should remember the most dear form of Krishna, the son of Nanda of Kaishora age. So even though we took the example of Sakya Ras, but actually there is a very solid emphasis on Madhurya Ras. We cannot hide it. We should not prematurely take it, but at the same time we cannot hide it also. And if you actually read the descriptions, it is quite clear. because that's exactly what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also came to give. If the person is ready, anarpita charim chirat karunaya avatirnaha kalau samarpayitum unnata ujjvala rasam swabhakti shriyam. So therefore here the word Kaishora is used. Actually if you see, for those aspiring for Vatsalya Ras, the form of Krishna in his Balya Avastha, before 5 years of age, that is the favorable age. And for those aspiring for Sakya Ras, Pauganda Avastha, which is, boyhood, that is favorable. And the adult age, the Kaishora Avastha, is favorable for the meditation of those who are aspiring for Madhurya Rasa. But here he is telling, Jiva Goswami is telling, one should remember the most dear form of Krishna, the son of Nanda, of Kaishora age. This is indirectly indicating that this description is for those aspiring for Madhurya Rasa. And the devotees of that particular form of Krishna who have the same type of desires as oneself, Nija Samihitam, as we already discussed. Remembering such devotees, one should live in Vraja. If possible, one should physically live in Vrindavan. If not possible, one should at least try to mentally live there. Which means mentally living there is constantly the person keeps meditating on the various pastime places of Vrindavan. He does a mental parikrama and constantly his thoughts are absorbed in Vrindavan and its places. So, what is the right kind of meditation for a Raganuga Sadhaka? Because here we are talking about Krishnam Smaran, Cha Asya Preshta Janam Smaran. So, what is the right kind of meditation for a Raganuga Sadhaka? So, here Srila Shivaram Swami Maharaj says, the bona fide meditation is to remember the activities of the Vrajavasi to whom one has become attracted. Nija Samihitam. For example, devotees attracted to the service of the cowherd boy Sridama may meditate on Sridama's beautiful features, how he jokes, how he plays with Krishna, how he tends to the cows during the day and so on. So these descriptions are given in Srimad Bhagavatam. These descriptions are given in the writings of our Acharyas also. So one can read such pastimes and they can meditate on such pastimes. And devotees attracted to the service of Rupa Manjari, Madhurya Rasa, the Siddha Rupa of Rupa Goswami, may meditate on how Rupa Manjari accompanies Srimati Radharani to her meetings with Krishna, and how she anoints the divine couple with sandalwood paste, how she fans them. These pastimes are also mentioned in the writings of the Acharyas. Okay, so one can read these pastimes, meditate on these pastimes. This is the right kind of meditation. But the question may arise, how will I know which Vrajavasi to follow? Can you give me some suggestions? How will I choose? Can you give me a list? The truth is that devotees qualified to cultivate such a relationship would not ask this question. The fact that you are asking this question means you have to wait till you become qualified to practice this path. Because one who is qualified to practice this path will never ask this question because he has already developed an attraction. Through hearing, through remembering, through meditation, he has already developed an attachment. So therefore, if you are asking, how will I know which Brajavasi to follow? The answer is, don't follow right now. Continue the practice of Vaidhi Sadhana, and when the heart becomes sufficiently purified, you will automatically know which one to follow. The devotee's original relationship with Krishna is dormant within them. It is not something which is whimsically adopted. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabunoi. Shravanadi Shuddha Chitta Kare Uday. It is automatic, it is there within the heart. When proper chanting, hearing and practice of other devotional limbs are practiced, automatically in that heart which is cleansed, this one's own identity will naturally manifest and one will know which Vrajavasi to follow. So one who is qualified will never ask this question. A natural and special appreciation for the pastimes of Krishna awakens in qualified devotees as they hear Srimad Bhagavatam and chant Hare Krishna. So the means of awakening it is, as we saw, the 5 most potent limbs: hearing, relishing Srimad Bhagavatam, serving devotees, getting together with devotees and engaging in common devotional activities, visiting dhams, chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra without offenses, and performing archanam, worshipping the deity forms of the Lord with intimacy. By continuously hearing and chanting, a sincere devotee is naturally drawn to a particular mode of service and to a particular Vrajavasi. So this is a natural, organic process. As Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, it need not be prematurely force-fed into devotees. Such devotees don't ask, whom should I follow? It is naturally manifest. In this regard, Srila Prabhupada writes in the Adi Leela purport, special natural appreciation of the descriptions of a particular pastime of Godhead indicates the constitutional position of a living entity. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabunoi, Shravanadi Shuddha Chitta Kare Uday. When the heart becomes cleansed by Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Pada Sevanam, automatically that form manifests. So therefore, one need not be unduly bothered about this question. The fact that this question exists in our heart indicates that we are not yet qualified. So now the question is, so if we are not yet qualified, not yet qualified, not yet qualified means, what is the prerequisite for remembering Krishna and the Vrajavasis? What is the prerequisite? Of course, we have already discussed these prerequisites, but just to re-emphasize. How does a devotee remember Krishna and his associates? As we already saw, this is not an artificial process, it is an organic development. So it organically develops how, where, under what circumstances. 2 prerequisites are there. One is purity of heart and the other is suitable knowledge. So, purity of the heart makes the mind peaceful enough to enter through the enter thoughts of Vrindavan. Otherwise, when the heart is not pure enough, when we are troubled by constant material desires, then we cannot favorably think of Vrindavan, Krishna in Vrindavan, his associates in Vrindavan, their pastimes in Vrindavan, the qualities of Krishna in Vrindavan. None of these things we can think of. Knowledge of the Vrajavasi's pastimes, features, qualities, this provides the subject matter in which to immerse the mind. When the heart is cleansed, then it needs some positive food. Like for example, if there has been some food poisoning, and we are seeing some effects of food poisoning, first some purgative is given to completely cleanse. So as soon as the person takes that purgative or laxative, he starts, all the unfavorable poison gets removed from his body, either through vomiting or through passing stool. And once that becomes the body becomes completely cleansed of that poison, then he needs to take positive nourishment in order to become healthy. So, anartha nivritti is like purging the heart of all the poison. When the heart has been purged of all the poison, then one does need to hear those special pastimes of Krishna and Vrindavan. So that positive matter helps the living entity submerge himself in the right kind of subject matter. In this regard, Srila Prabhupada often used to quote these following 2 verses of Narottam Das Thakur. Famous bhajan, you all know this bhajan. विषय चाडिया कबे शुद्ध habe man, kabe hama herabo Shri Vrindavan. So Prabhupada gives a very interesting translation also to these two verses. Vishaya chadiya kabe shuddha habe man. When the mind is completely purified, being freed from material anxieties and desires. This is elaboration of Prabhupada. Kabe hama herabo Shri Vrindavan. Then I shall be able to understand Vrindavan and the conjugal love of Radha and Krishna, and then my spiritual life will be successful. This is all elaboration by Prabhupada. Kabe hama herabo Shri Vrindavan. Then I will be able to see Vrindavan. This is the literal translation. But Prabhupada's purportic translation to this, or Bhavartha translation, is that when the mind is completely purified, being freed from material anxieties and desires, then I shall be able to understand Vrindavan and the conjugal love of Radha and Krishna, and then my spiritual life will be successful. Okay, so this is, he talks about anartha nivritti, cleansing, positive nourishment in the form of Krishna Katha, that he tells in the next verse. Rupa Raghunatha pade haibe akuti, kabe hama bhuja bose yugala piriti. Not only does the heart has to be cleansed, he says, Rupa Raghunatha pade haibe akuti. Literal meaning is, when I develop attraction to the lotus feet of Rupa Raghunatha, kabe hama bhuja bose yugala piriti. Then I can understand the loving exchange between Radha and Krishna. But Prabhupada says, Prabhupada's explanation of this line, very interesting. When shall I be very much eager to study the books left by the 6 Goswamis, headed by Srila Rupa Goswami and Srila Raghunath Das Goswami? That is the meaning of Rupa Raghunatha pade haibe akuti. To develop attraction or affection to the lotus feet of Rupa Raghunath actually means eagerness to study the books left by the 6 Goswamis, headed by Rupa Goswami and Srila Raghunath Das Goswami. By their instructions, I shall be able to properly understand the loving affairs of Radha and Krishna. So these are the two prerequisites. Purification of heart by proper practice of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti and Anartha Nivritti, and then when the heart is cleansed, studying the literatures left behind by our Goswamis. Not that we have to wait till our heart is cleansed to read the literatures, but we can read appropriate sections of the literatures left by Rupa Goswami and Raghunath Das Goswami, which is suitable for our devotional development. At Vaidhi Sadhana, what sections can be read? It is a whole different seminar in itself. At what stage of our spiritual development, what books we can read. So this is a science. It is a science. How do we understand our own progress and what literature is suitable to study at our stage? All of this is a science, actually. Devotees must first achieve freedom from material contamination by practicing the step-by-step process of Vaidhi Sadhana or regulative devotion outlined by Rupa Goswami. The mind then purified, they can gain knowledge of Vrindavan from the books of the 6 Goswamis and their authorized followers in the line of our founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada. So then we can read the higher subject matters given by the 6 Goswamis. And then the next theme that we will discuss in the practice of Raganuga Bhakti is that how the development of attraction to Vrindavan is gradual. This is a gradual development. We will discuss this theme now, and then the next theme we will discuss tomorrow. Srila Shivaram Swami Maharaj writes, attraction to a resident of Vrindavan develops in stages. How gradually this develops? First, one develops a general attraction for a particular mood. Let's say Sakyaras. So as we discussed before, the first what develops is a generic attraction to devotional service. When that matures, one develops particular attraction amongst various avatars. One may develop particular attraction to Krishna. When that develops and matures, one may develop particular attraction to Krishna in Vrindavan. When that matures, one may develop particular attraction to a particular rasa. That's what we are discussing right now. Next, after developing particular attraction to a particular rasa, one may develop attraction to a particular devotee in that rasa. One may get attracted to Sakyaras and one may get specifically attracted to Sridama. Because even amongst the sakas, if you see, there are Priya sakas, Priya Narma sakas, and many different categories are there. So even within that, one may get attracted to a particular category, and within that particular category, one particular saka, because each person is an individual and he has a particular way of dealing with Krishna, and one may get attracted to that particular individual even in that rasa. The last to awaken when taste and attachment have matured. Taste and attachment means ruchi and asakti. The last thing to manifest when ruchi and asakti have matured is attraction to a specific Vrajavasi. When devotees reach the stage of Bhava Bhakti, then it is not Sadhana Bhakti, but it is Sadhya Bhakti, perfected devotional service. Then one's own actually form in the spiritual world, it gets revealed in the heart. That happens only at the stage of Bhava Bhakti. So in this way, actually if you see, there is a gradual development. One should not artificially rush to such paths. So with this, we will pause for today. Of course, we have not come to the completion of discussing this theme of practice of Raganuga Bhakti. We have discussed about 5 themes, and we will discuss, there are many more themes coming up in this theme of practicing Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti. So we will continue this discussion tomorrow. Thank you very much for your patient listening, and please do write your questions and comments in the comment box if you are listening on YouTube, or if you are listening on the online courses portal. In either of these sites, when if you are watching this course, please do write your questions. We will definitely on a regular basis address these questions. So thank you very much for your patient listening. Hoping to have your association tomorrow also. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Rupa Goswami Pad ki jai. Shri Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu ki jai. Hare Krishna.